night plays tricks on you. You ever notice how the world changes at night? Not just the way the streets empty out or how the air turns colder, but something deeper, something beneath the surface. The roads stretch longer than they should, like they're leading you somewhere you're not supposed to go. Buildings stand lifeless, their windows dark and hollow, like empty eyes watching you pass. And the silence? It's not silence. Not really. It breathes. It hums. It listens. You tell yourself it's just your imagination, just exhaustion, playing tricks on you. But if you've ever worked a night shift, if you've ever driven alone after midnight, you already know the truth. You felt it, that eerie, skin-prickling feeling that you're not alone, even when you should be. That fleeting shadow in your rearview mirror that wasn't there a second ago. That whisper, soft and breathless, just over your shoulder, saying your name. Your heart pounds, your body stiffens, but you don't dare turn around. Because deep down you already know something is there, watching, waiting, and the worst part? It's been there the whole time. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. What if the things you see in the dark are seeing you back? And what if they want you to see them? It starts as something small, a trick of the light, a flicker of movement just outside your vision. But the more you ignore it, the more it pushes forward. A second too long in the mirror and suddenly, your reflection isn't moving with you. A quick glance at the security cameras, and there's someone standing in the hallway. But when you check, no one's there. A highway that should be empty, but there's a pair of headlights behind you. No car, just lights floating in the dark. You blink. It's gone. You try to breathe, but you can feel it now. A weight. A presence. Something pressing against your skin like cold fingers. And the worst thing you can do? Acknowledge it. Because the moment you see it, really see it, it knows you're looking, and that's when it comes closer. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about 3 people who saw too much. A trucker, driving a lonely stretch of highway, who looked into his side mirror at the wrong time and saw something looking back. A night shift worker doing a routine check, who heard a voice that should have never been there and made the mistake of listening. And a food delivery driver, who arrived at an address that didn't exist, yet something inside was waiting for him. 3 people who ignored the warnings. 3 people who thought they were safe. They weren't, and neither are you. Because once the night whispers your name, you can't escape.
First story, Highway Reflection, a long-haul trucker's nightmare. You ever been on the road at night? I mean the real late-night hours, when everything feels off. The highways stretch longer, the air gets thicker, and the silence, it's not really silence. I've been a truck driver for years, done more night shifts than I can count, seen every kind of road, every kind of weather. But some highways just feel wrong. There's this one stretch of road between 2 dead-end towns. Just cracked asphalt, rusting road signs, and miles of nothing. Locals call it the Hollow Mile. No one ever tells you why. But the stories, oh, the stories. They say, if you see something in your mirror that doesn't belong, don't look back. I always thought it was just another trucker's ghost tale, a way to pass the time on long hauls. But one night, I saw it, and now I don't sleep without covering my mirrors. It was 3 a.m., the kind of late where the world stops feeling real. You ever notice that? How the night has a way of twisting things. The road stretches just a little longer than it should. Shadows start moving when you're not looking. And your own reflection in the mirror. Sometimes it's just a little too slow to blink. That night, The air was too thick, like I was driving through something unseen, something that didn't belong in this world. I had the window cracked open, but the air outside, still. Not a single gust, not even the rush of wind from my own truck speeding down the road. It was like the night was holding its breath. My truck hummed beneath me, the weight of my loaded trailer making every bump in the road feel like I was dragging something heavy. I flicked on the radio, scanning for a station. I don't know why. Maybe just to hear another human voice, something normal. But all I got was static. That weird high-pitched hum that almost sounds like a whisper if you listen too long. I turned it off. Too eerie. That's when it started. That feeling like someone was watching me. Not just from outside the truck, but inside. You ever get that? That creeping sensation that something is right behind you? I swear, I felt it, like something was sitting in the back of the cab, staring, waiting. I shook it off. Road fatigue. Just my mind playing tricks on me. But then I saw it in my side mirror. A car. No headlights, no sound, just there. Rolling along the highway, shadow-like. I squinted at the mirror, trying to see the driver. But the front of the car was just empty blackness, except for the eyes. Two glowing white eyes. Not headlights. Eyes, the kind that don't belong to anything human. I forced a breath, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. I blinked. Gone. Just road behind me. I let out a shaky breath, forcing a laugh. I was just tired, that's all. Then I glanced at the mirror again, and the car was right beside me. I stopped breathing. The highway was empty. I should have heard it pull up, seen its lights, something. But no. Headlights, no engine, just gliding along beside my truck. And then I saw her, the passenger. She sat perfectly still, her face frozen in a scream. Mouth stretched too wide, like her jaw was broken, eyes bulging like she'd been suffocating for hours, and there was no sound, no breath, no movement. I forced myself to stare straight ahead. Don't look, just drive. But then I checked my mirror again, and she moved. Fast, too fast, like a video skipping frames. 1 second, she was frozen. The next, she was staring right at me, and her eyes met mine, my lungs locked. It felt like something had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart. Her eyes were dead white, but there was something inside them. Like she was trapped, like she was begging. My hands shook. I felt lightheaded, my ears ringing with something like distant whispers. I needed to get out of there. I slammed my foot on the gas, my truck roaring forward. Speed limit be damned! The trailer lurched behind me, my whole rig shaking like it was trying to shake something off. And then the car was gone, just gone. No turn-off, no skid marks, just an empty road stretching forever. I exhaled, forcing my hands to steady. Maybe it was a trick of the night, a trick of the road, a hallucination, and then the radio crackled. It started as a whisper, a low, drowning hiss, like someone gasping through a broken throat. Then a voice, a woman's voice. Help me, I froze. He won't let me leave. My veins iced over. My breathing turned shallow. I stared at the radio, every part of me refusing to move. Please, he's coming. And then, silence, just dead, humming static. My pulse was a hammer in my skull. I swallowed, my throat dry as sand, and against every instinct in my body, I looked at the mirror, and she was there, in my back seat, her face still frozen in that silent scream. But her body, twisted, wrong, her hands reaching for me. I let out a choked yell, yanking the wheel so hard the truck lurched, nearly flipping the trailer. The tires screamed against the pavement, the whole rig swaying violently. And then she was gone, just like that. I sat there, hands shaking on the wheel, air wheezing through my lungs. I forced myself to check the rear view. The passenger seat, the mirrors, nothing, just me, my truck, and the endless road stretching into the black. But the mirrors? I covered them with duct tape that same night, and I never looked into them again.
Second story, The Basement Door, Hotel Night Shift. Horror, you ever work the night shift? There's something about it that just isn't right. The world feels different when the sun goes down and everyone else is asleep. The silence isn't peaceful, it's too deep, too unnatural, like the whole world is holding its breath. The shadows stretch longer than they should, reaching, creeping. But the worst part? The feeling. That unbearable, skin-prickling sensation that you're not alone. That something is watching, waiting. I work the graveyard shift at a hotel. It's simple enough. Check in guests, keep the peace, make sure nothing goes wrong. But there's one thing that isn't in the job description. The basement door. No number, no sign, always locked, no key. And my manager? He gave me one rule. If you hear anything coming from that door, ignore it. Don't go near it, don't ask. Just pretend it doesn't exist. For a while I did. Until one night, I couldn't. It started with a knock. It was 2:13 a.m. The lobby was silent. Just me, the glow of the front desk computer, and the distant hum of the vending machine light flickering like it was on its last breath. Then the sound came. Knock, knock, knock. Soft, rhythmic, too deliberate to be the building settling. I frowned, glancing at the security monitors. The basement hallway, empty. The knocks didn't stop. They grew louder, more insistent. The knocking turned to banging. Then, scratching. Deep, deliberate, nails dragging down wood kind of scratching. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. My hand hovered over the radio. Maybe it was just the pipes. Maybe an animal had gotten inside. My brain scrambled for an explanation. Then I heard it. A voice. My voice. Please, can't and don't leave me down here. My blood ran ice cold. I recoiled, nearly knocking my chair over. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. That wasn't possible. That wasn't real. I fumbled with the security monitor controls, my hand shaking. The screen flickered, static crawling over the feed. But in the distortion, how something moved. A shape, tall, wrong. It shifted like it wasn't made of flesh, but of the static itself, rippling, warping. And it was standing directly in front of the basement door. Then all at once the feed cut out. A sharp click made me jump the radio. A burst of static, then a voice, strained, urgent, barely above a whisper. It was my co-worker. Do not open that door. My breath hitched, my throat tightened. I turned my head toward the basement hallway. The door was open. Something came out. Deep, suffocating cold swept through the lobby. The air thickened, pressing against me like unseen hands wrapping around my throat. The lights flickered violently. The shadows moved. And then it crawled out, not walked. Crawled. Its limbs jerked unnaturally, head twisted too far to the side, as if it were listening. It had no face, just a shifting blur, like static had bled from the screen into reality. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. It raised one hand. Bent, broken fingers pointed at me, then a whisper, right beside my ear. "I remember you." My stomach dropped. That voice. It wasn't coming from the thing in the doorway. It was behind me. My pulse exploded in my ears. I wanted to run, wanted to scream, but my body refused to obey. The lights died. Total darkness. A slow, deliberate scratching sound filled the silence. Nails against wood, circling me, closer, closer. A breath, wet, guttural, ragged, rasped in the dark. The air grew heavier, pressing. Against my lungs, squeezing out the oxygen. The scratching stopped. Silence then. Something touched my shoulder. I choked on my own breath, jerking forward so hard I slammed into the desk. The lights flickered back on for a split second, and in that moment I saw it standing right in front of me. No face, no eyes, just a hollow void where its features should be. Its hands, too long, too many fingers curling inward like a spider waiting to strike, and then the lights cut out again, total darkness. A voice, soft and mocking, whispered through the blackness. "For you opened the door." The last thing I saw. The darkness swallowed everything, then I was somewhere else. The air smelled damp, stale. The floor beneath me wasn't tile, it was stone, cold, ancient stone. I tried to move, couldn't. My body felt weightless, trapped in the void. Then the whispers started, soft, distant at first. Then closer, closer, a chorus of voices overlapping, calling my name. Not from outside me, but from within, shadows slithered in the dark. Something brushed against my arm. Fingers? No. Too many. Moving like centipede legs, clicking, tapping. Sound low inhuman rumbled through the void. Then a single phrase whispered directly into my ear. "Run." The world exploded back into existence. I gasped, my body lurching upright. The hotel lobby, my desk, the monitor. The clock read 3:45 a.m. I was back. My uniform was drenched in cold sweat. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. My hands trembled as I reached for the security monitor. Basement hallway. Empty. The door? Closed. I exhaled shakily, forcing myself to believe it was just my mind playing tricks. Exhaustion. Stress. But then, a flicker. The monitor glitched. The feed stuttered. The basement door was open again, and in the darkness beyond it, something was watching me.
Story 3. Wrong address. I do late-night food deliveries to make extra cash. It's easy money, right? Drive around, drop off food and go home. Simple. But some orders? They stick with you. Not because of the tip, not because of the food, but because they shouldn't have happened at all. That night started like any other. I picked up an order from a burger joint. Double cheeseburger, fries, large soda. Nothing weird. Until I saw the delivery address. It led me to a dead-end street. The houses there were old, crumbling, like no one had touched them in years. But the one at the very end? It looked worse. Faded paint, boarded windows, a front door that seemed barely held together. Something about that house made my stomach churn, like it didn't belong, like it was waiting. Still, I had a job to do. I parked, grabbed the food and walked up to the porch. Then I saw it, a light flickering inside. Someone was home. I knocked, no answer. Just silence. Then my phone buzzed. A message from the customer. "Doors open!" My breath hitched. That wasn't normal. I've had customers tell me to leave food on the porch before, but this was different. Who just tells a total stranger to walk into their house? I looked at the door. It was slightly ajar, just enough to see the darkness inside. No sound, No movement, just that flickering light in the hallway. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Come inside. Every part of me screamed no. But before I could decide what to do, the wind picked up behind me, cold and sharp. The door creaked open, wider, like it was inviting me in. I stepped inside. The air was thick, stale, like the place had been sealed shut for decades. The faint smell of something rotting lingered, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. The hallway stretched long, too long, like it didn't match the outside of the house. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and the floorboards creaked under my weight. Then my phone buzzed again. Close the door. You're letting him in. My heart stopped. My hands went ice cold. Him? Who the hell was him? I turned, ready to bolt. And that's when I saw it. The front door was wide open, but I hadn't touched it. Outside, standing just beyond the porch light, was a shadow. No features, no eyes, just a tall, slouched figure, watching me. The wind howled through the trees, but it didn't move. It just stood there. A deep, guttural sound filled my ears, like breathing, but too low, too wet, like something wasn't supposed to exist. I slammed the door shut and stumbled back into the hallway, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. My phone buzzed again. Don't turn around. Every hair on my body stood up. My skin crawled. I wasn't alone. Something shifted behind me. I squeezed my eyes shut, heart hammering in my chest. My hands clenched the food bag so tight, the paper crumpled loudly in the silence. Just leave the food in the kitchen, another text read. I forced myself to breathe, to move. Each step felt wrong, like I was sinking into something I couldn't escape. I reached the kitchen and placed the bag on the counter, not daring to look around. Then I heard it. Footsteps, not mine, slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I gritted my teeth, my body frozen. The air thickened, pressing down on me like something unseen was crawling into my skin. Then my phone vibrated. You need to leave, now! I spun around. The hallway was empty, but the front door. It was open again, and that shadow. It was inside the house. I didn't think. I ran. My feet barely touched the floor as I sprinted toward the door. The figure didn't move, but the air around it shuddered, like the whole house was breathing. The closer I got, the colder it became, freezing my skin, slowing me down. I lunged past, it diving into the night air. My lungs burned as I hit the ground and scrambled to my feet. My car was still running. I yanked the door open, jumped inside, and slammed it shut. I hit the gas. The tires screeched against the pavement as I tore down the empty street, my hands gripping the wheels so tight my knuckles turned white. But just as I thought I was safe, my phone vibrated one last time. I didn't want to look, but I did. The message? You left the door open. I checked my mirror, and my stomach dropped. The house gone, just an empty lot where it had been. But right there, sitting on the curb, was my delivery bag, untouched, waiting like I had never been there at all.
The night plays tricks on you. But what if it's not a trick? What if the shadows aren't just shadows? What if that uneasy feeling, that creeping sensation on the back of your neck, is something real, something watching, something following? Most of us ignore it. We shake off the feeling, convince ourselves it's just our imagination. But sometimes by the time we realize the truth, it's already too late. Some roads lead nowhere. Some doors should never be opened. And some places, they exist in between, lurking just outside of what we understand. You can drive down a highway 100 times and never notice, until the one night you do. You can work the night shift for years, safe in the routine, until the wrong door opens. You can deliver food to 1,000 houses, until one leads you somewhere you were never meant to be. And once you've seen it, once it's seen you, there's no going back. Maybe next time you're out late, alone on an empty road or working past midnight, you'll feel it, that heavy, suffocating silence, that whisper of movement just outside your vision. Maybe you'll convince yourself it's nothing, that you're just tired, just paranoid. But tell me, what if you're wrong? What if it's still there? What if it's waiting? And what if the next time your headlights flicker, the next time a door creaks open behind you, the next time your phone buzzes with a message that shouldn't exist, it's your turn. If you enjoyed these terrifying true horror stories, make sure to subscribe for more. Hit the like button if this gave you chills, and share this video with someone who loves a good scare. But remember, the scariest stories aren't just stories, they're warnings. Sleep well, if you can.